Welcome to the AirCon Vault. Here you can find the recordings of the live streams from Airwiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Aftertouch Audio, Boom Library, FMod, Game Audio Learning, Game SoundCon, Kilohearts, Rev Rooms, Sound Cuts, Strata from Audio Kinetic, and Airwiggle, the online home for audio people. We hope you enjoy the video.
Welcome to Music Composers Settle the Score with my three amazing guests. Nainita, Megan, and Luci. Hello. So I'm going to introduce everybody. Right. So amongst her work on various BAFTA, Academy Award, and Emmy acclaimed film and TV productions, Nainita Desai's recent projects include Nautilus, the epic fantasy adventure series for Amazon Disney, Secrets of the Penguins for Disney Plus, and video games Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Season 3, EA Originals Tales of Kanzera Zhao, and Sam Barlow's BAFTA-winning games Telling Lies and Immortality. Other notable scripted series include the BBC action thriller Crossfire, Sky drama Funny Woman, and feature docs for Netflix including 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, and The Deepest Breath, and wildlife series Earth Sounds and The Wild Ones for Apple TV+. Welcome, Nainita. Yay! Okay. Megan. Hi. Megan Carnes is a Chicago-based composer for games, films, podcasts, and more, who has written music for tons of cool indie projects including Shouting Down Midnight, Helheim Hassel, and No Clip. She also worked as a music implementer on the Lamplighters League and creates her own music-centered games, including her upcoming tarot music game, Divinuet. Yeah. Hey. Did I pronounce that correctly, by the way? Or is it Divinuet?
It's Divinuet, you're right. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Yay. And Luci, an award-winning Scottish composer and sound artist. Luci's work includes game music for Murderous Pursuits, Fluyo, Ventures Gauntlet VR, Playhead, CRT7, and several in development projects, as well as the score for live action fantasy film Sayo, which won a New Music Scotland Award in 2021. Luci also builds and designs interactive audiovisual installations and creative technology-inspired live performances. And from 2019 to 2024, she presented game music show The Console on Scala Radio. And she also works part-time as a producer and creative director with Tinderbox Collective, a community of musicians, artists, youth workers, and young people based in Edinburgh, Scotland. Right, you guys are all amazing. I just want to say that off the bat. Wow. So hi, and I'm your host for this evening, Helen. So I'm a music designer and I do a bunch of other things. So that's me. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of questions. So how this is going to work is, please, everybody watching as you go along, put them in the question chat, which is between the icon of the two people plus the chat. Is the one with the question mark is basically for the Q&A, and I'll get to you when I can. So I'm thinking with the way time is going, I'll go through the questions I have. Half of them are creative, half of them are business related, and then we will go on to the Q&A. Okay, so brilliant. So when it gets to maybe 5 past the hour, I think I'll try the Q&A then. Okay, so first things first. Welcome to everybody. So if somebody asks you about your own musical style in one sentence without them hearing your work before, could you effectively describe your own musical voice? No.
That's like asking someone to write, when you get those little obituaries in a newspaper, and it's asking somebody to summarize your entire life in 100 words, and this is less than that. So that's really challenging.
Pretty much. I mean, there's been quite a few nights out where I've had that question thrown at me and I'm going, how can I articulate this in words? But just wondering if any of you guys have cracked that code. But
I'm so glad that everybody else, Nainita and maybe Megan feel that way too, because I've always really struggled with this, and I also feel guilty about it all the time because I feel like it's maybe it should be a basic thing, but I've never been able to describe my approach or my music sound very well.
Yeah, I'm basically the same way, and I've definitely tried, but yeah, it's really hard to kind of put into words, I find.
I think it's one of those things where we're just going to have a QR code on our lock screen and just tell every cab driver, hey, scan this and you'll find out. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
When you release music on Spotify and you have to fill in that awful sort of boxes of categories,
yes,
and there isn't one for soundtrack. I think that there is no soundtrack, is there? You know,
it's a unique form of imposter syndrome there, isn't there? When you're going through that process, like,
absolutely,
I don't belong.
Sorry to trigger anybody off the first question, but anyway. Okay, so how important is it to you to record live musicians for your projects? Do you prefer to capture your own performance, or are you excited at the prospect of being pleasantly surprised by another musician's subjective interpretation of your work? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I like, you know, even if it's very budget dependent, I think, in terms of recording live musicians, and that's why, you know, even if I'm on a really low budget, I always try to record at least a couple of live elements, even if it's stuff that I'm playing myself, you know, with a wall of instruments behind me. I mean, I'm not a master of any instrument. I play the Mac Pro, the Mac Studio these days. So I think it, you know, being able to pluck and bang and scrape any instrument you have to hand, I think, is just to give it the human touch. I think, you know, even if you're using samples, electronics, I think it's really important to bring in some kind of human element, because people respond to that when they listen to music. You know, even if you're using a hybrid, you know, samples and synths and electronic elements combined with a couple of live elements at least, it just brings it to life. And the ear, and psychologically, I think your brain just instantly focuses on the human element, and then suddenly everything seems a lot more alive, doesn't it?
Definitely, I think subconsciously, you know, anybody listening to music can definitely, even if they can't actively identify it, they know there's a live element there. So, absolutely. How about you, Megan?
I'm kind of the same, where it's very budget dependent, but I try to include live elements when I can. And I'm kind of the same, where I'm not particularly good at any instruments anymore. Like, I'm fine at a lot of instruments. So when something has the budget where I can hire other musicians, that's great. That's my favorite. But yeah, I mean, I grew up playing violin and played all throughout college and stuff. So I can play that well enough that I can layer that on top of my sample strings, right? And that really just makes like the entire orchestra sound more realistic. So I try to do that whenever I can.
Definitely, and also helps to have a friend who doesn't mind to chime in as well, you know. Lucy, how about you? And by the way, the chat, absolutely chime in if you want to let us know your anecdotes about this. So
oh yeah, I definitely feel very similar. I think I love to work with a live sound, and it totally brings that extra depth to an overall sound for me. I think as well there's something in the collaborative process of working with, even if it's just one musician or a group or, you know, a whole ensemble. That, like, for me is a really big part of what I find so interesting about writing and creating music. So whenever there's a chance to bring something in any way, I love to work with other people, but also just like recording live samples yourself to mess with as well, even if it's not an instrumental source, you know. I love mixing in that kind of real element.
Yeah, and it can kind of, I suppose, it can add to your own kind of personal voice and that kind of thing as well. Flora says, recording even just a few people is also just a nice excuse to go outside your dark, lonely bubble. There we go. Yes. Mark, live all the way. It's hard to go back once you started. Oh dear. Yes. Absolutely. That leads me on to the next question actually in a second. But yeah, sorry, was it?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I like to work with musicians who are not used to playing for film and TV and games as well. You know, they're sort of musicians that play world music instruments as well. I think it's like taking a square peg and putting them in a round hole. I love taking them out of their comfort zone and saying, let me throw something at you. And so I like to be surprised by other people's musical contributions as well, especially if you're doing like a semi-improvisational session. I think that can be a really cool, refreshing way to breathe life into your music, and it invigorates me, and that takes me down a different creative path as well when I hear someone else's contribution to my music, you know, and I start editing, and then it's like little branches of big tree roots, you know, where you're like takes you off different direction. You start editing and writing fresh music based on their improvisations as well. So
that's very interesting, yeah, because you can get used to what you've written yourself, and then when you get something back, it happened to me not too long ago with some drum and rock instruments. Other people's interpretation of your work can completely transform it from the ground up, really. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, we have some people here. John says, one live instrument makes all the difference. Evan, 100% agree, even if the performance or recording quality isn't perfect, like Nainita was saying. The piece can benefit from a live layer versus all samples. Michael, is it Michael? I love to add in my own samples, and I always like to throw in something on a guitar where possible too. I love working with musicians, though. I always want to see what flavor they bring to. And Nikhil says, can reamping be considered as a live recording? Joke. Okay. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so that leads me on to the next one, actually. During your composition process with virtual instruments becoming more realistic sounding, do you prefer to be completely in the box, or do you like to create and develop your ideas using your principal instrument? So Megan, you were saying you play violin, Nainita, you play string instruments. Actually, we're all string players, I think, so this is fantastic. Yeah, what do you all feel? Luci?
Oh yes, I think I'm definitely an in the box composer, because yeah, I like to create with a mix of sounds. I'm an oboist and a vocalist, but I've also been learning double bass over the last couple of years. So I feel that one with our string family. We should start a group. But yeah, I've always thought it's weird because oboe is my principal instrument, but I don't really ever write for it super often, whether it's for an ensemble that could have an oboist, or if I'm just working on something. It's not an instrument I bring into my own work very often, but I do love to be kind of involved in the whole kind of start to finish, and I'll often do my own vocals, and often bring my vocals in and try and use them in new ways. And I think when there's space in a role or a project where I can really dig into the whole process from start to finish, and like sculpt things as we go, it's a lot like what Nainita was saying about imagining or visualizing a tree actually around the creative process, and maybe where that leads you and how you approach things. For me, I've always kind of felt of it as a bit like crafting a beautiful, gorgeous wooden dresser or something, and you're sort of like shaping it as it goes and using different materials. But yeah, I definitely really enjoy that, and that's more where I lean to. But yeah, I definitely leave mastering and that end of things to the professionals.
Absolutely.
Not my type.
Totally agree. Like I agree with what you were saying about having the kind of process evolved like a tree. This is our new kind of our word painting for the evening. I like to write like ideas myself, like with instruments and kind of with like a notepad, pen, and paper when I can, because I know we don't all get that time to do it. But sometimes if I'm in the box, I kind of feel like I have to just make things fit, and then I have to take myself out of it and like try things outside to get more creative again. You can kind of get sucked into the bubble, as somebody was saying there. Megan, how about you?
I'm very much in the box. I don't know. I like just being able to see like everything in the DAW visually, like look at the key editor, piano roll, what have you. That's just kind of become more the way I think about composing, I think. And then, individual instrument parts like kind of come later. And if there's a violin part, maybe I'll try playing it on my violin later, and see how it feels. But overall, very much in the box, yeah.
Fantastic! It's great. It's I think that like just with modern technology and such, that provides a lot of flexibility, because you can probably switch between loads of different softwares pretty easily. Can you? Is that your?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much all in Cubase, but like different sample libraries and whatnot. I have like a bunch of different ones. So yes, for sure.
Excellent, love it. Nainita, how about you?
In the box, and it's funny because, if it were, I learned the violin and the piano when I was a child, and I learned Indian classical instruments growing up as well as a teenager. But I think if it wasn't for technology, I probably wouldn't be a composer today. I grew up with synths as a teenager, loving synths and electronics, and set up my own home studio and exploring and experimenting. And I wanted to be a record engineer and a producer and music engineer. And that's kind of, I got into composition through technology. But I was always playing and fiddling around and overdubbing and triple tracking, my 4-track recorder at home. But I like to mix up. My default position is always to sit in front of the computer, and I think that I do my best work, my most creative thoughts and ideas come from when I'm not in the studio. So my phone is my best musical instrument, because I sing into it and I come up with ideas I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking I've cracked the solution to this piece that I have to write, and I'll sing into my phone. But then, I did a project where I brought in, I did very basic sketches, really raw sketches, thinking I know what I want. And then I brought in musicians to do early experimental improvisational sessions, and I was layering stuff. And like, for example, I did a track. I wrote a piece of music I brought in a cellist, and I had a blank Logic session page. I have no idea what I'm going to do here, but you've got 7 notes. You're going to play. No, sorry, I gave her 5 notes. When I point my finger up, you're going to go up a tone. When I point my finger down, you're going to go down a tone. And I had a click track, and we just started recording a line on the cello, and we thought, okay, we've got a line, and then we did it again and again and again. And we had this sea of cello layers, and it just sounded amazing. And I could never have done that had it not been for a live instrument, So I think those kinds of experiments are really, you think, what are we going to end up with? They're really surprising and magical. So I like to mix up my process, even though I write in the box. But it's great to sort of play around with that sort of process.
Fantastic. Yeah, because definitely I think like you were saying, Nainita, adaptability, like playing stuff when you're younger, and then having it become kind of a central part of a career. It's great to see that, and then like have a player trust your music and kind of see the results of that adaptability essentially, and them to join in on that too and contribute. So that's amazing. So yeah, I think we all kind of come from that kind of like messing around and noodling things when we were younger, and then kind of bringing it to the table, and it makes us more adaptable composers, I think, really, at the end of the day. So excellent. Wow. Oh, we have some people here. Oh my goodness. Sorry if I've been ignoring anybody. Nikhil, can you put your question in the Q&A, please? Thank you very much. Let me see there. Thomas, I like writing music on instruments that I'm bad at. I feel I can sometimes get trapped with instruments and software that I'm overly familiar with. So picking up something that I'm rubbish at helps me to explore new ways of looking at music. Cool, absolutely. Mark says, think Jacob Collier nicked that off you, Nainita.
Brilliant.
Impro sound design approach, love it. Absolutely, Flora. Oh, Jake. Okay, I think about the story about Pixar, where they went to famous cinematographers to try to replicate camera shake and color errors and physical lenses, which the cinematographers had tried to fix for decades. Adding the layer of human playing can bring in the humanness and painterliness that lets you avoid the uncanny valley. I do love that in composing. Instead of having to always carefully rebuild the subtleties of human performance, you can still just bring in a human performance. Yeah, absolutely. And just, I guess, let's not go down the rabbit hole at all, but in the times that we're in, I think human input is more important than ever, to be honest. So, and it adds to the unique nature of what the output is. Okay, so how do you get past writer's block, and or how do you surpass the feeling of imposter syndrome? Because sometimes for me, they go hand in hand. So.
I don't believe in writer's block.
I love that.
It doesn't. It's not. It's just a figment of your imagination. I mean, sometimes you have good days and you have bad days.
Yeah.
On a bad day, I'll just switch to doing admin, and like a non-creative day, it's just not happening. But I think you always have. I prevaricate and procrastinate a lot. At the beginning of a project, I think that's the most exciting time, and I love doing research. And I won't write anything. I'll just listen, R&D, listen to go through sample libraries, come up with a new template, and sometimes just a sound, going through a sound bank can inspire me. And I, get out of the studio, quite often I'll go shopping in the supermarket and I'll just come up, if I've got a musical problem, I'll go out for a walk. And yeah, I mean, I think but I think the more, when I first started, it used to take me like 2 weeks to write a piece of music that I was happy with. And now I can probably write that same quality of track in half a day or a day. So I think it's the composing brain is a muscle. And it's like doing 20,000 hours to learn a language or a skill. The more you do it, not the easier it becomes, but the more familiar you become, and you have your processes and your go-to tricks and shortcuts that you've created, if you're having a bad musical day, and also just throwing things in the session, even if the sounds are wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You've got somewhere to start, and then start sculpting and shaping. So yeah, I don't believe in writer's block. I just think I personally just work and push through it, and then eventually I'll get there. And I think composing is like being a master editor. You know, the ability to edit the bad ideas out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with going for walks and such, because like I very frequently go for a walk and I get an idea and voice notes and just like record everything in. Yeah, so it's the only way through something is through something, essentially. So Megan.
Yeah, pretty much the same. If I'm feeling blocked and I don't have any like admin or other stuff I can do, I just am like, okay, I'm gonna write some bad music, and I sit down and get the bad ideas out, and eventually like one of those will turn into a good idea. Like it happens pretty much every time. So I think just like, yeah, like consciously being like, okay, like just gonna like clear out some of the garbage from my brain, and then yeah, like figuring out what doesn't work is part of the process too, you know. So
absolutely, and you can't just drop things on a Monday and then all of a sudden come back Thursday and be a better composer. So definitely it's good to just break something, and yeah,
for sure. And then for the imposter syndrome question, I don't get it that much anymore, thankfully. It doesn't pop up, but when it does, I have like this folder of screenshots of clients who have said like nice things about my work, so I'll look at that, and then I'll also look at my website and just like my long list of credits and be like, okay, what's more likely, that I've somehow tricked all these people into thinking I'm good at making music and into hiring me, or that they actually like think I'm good and like my music? And yeah, that usually works fine, you know.
Excellent. And that's a tip for everybody: make a folder of your wins and look back on it when you're feeling a little bit not yourself, and it'll help. So yeah, thanks Megan, that's amazing. Luci.
Yeah, that's a great one, Megan. And I think I'm very similar to Nainita and Megan with just trying to push through things. I really try to find and dig into, if it's a project, what really excites me about it, you know, find that spark that even when times are tough or you're finding some challenges, it gets you through it because you're just so like motivated by the whole thing. Or like setting an intention or a challenge. I found, especially if I'm between projects, actually, that idea of like shaking the rust off or keeping the muscling with your computational approach. And I like to try and find challenges when I'm sort of having practice sessions in that way. Like you're saying too, Megan, like just getting started on something and seeing what comes of it. And I found a really good one for me is just to try and create a totally new sound flavor with like a sampler or a tool I haven't used as much, or you know, maybe a sound that I don't bring into my work as often. So that can be a good one for me to get started. And also definitely taking a walk for me. I find that really useful. Something that helps you switch off. And sometimes I think when I do have that feeling of creative procrastination or a writer's block, for me, I think it's sometimes a sign that I maybe need a bit of space from it as well. So going on a stroll, just out of it. But yeah, and I think in terms of imposter syndrome, I don't think I'm actually very good at managing that. So Megan, that's a really nice tip. But I do think staying involved with as many new musical experiences or communities as possible is good. It helps you keep active and curious, and you can't help but meet amazing people while you're doing it. So you learn that everyone's just finding their way, right? And we're all doing amazing things.
Definitely. And I'm part of a few professional organizations outside of work and like for music. And every now and again, there's a meeting. There's always like a heart-to-heart with the members in the call, and it's in each of the groups I'm part of. And it's interesting to see that no matter how far you are into your career, you can still doubt yourself or have a bad day or whatnot. So it's yes, I think we all need to have a folder on our computer that sparks joy. Put it that way. Okay. So outside the context of film, TV, and games, are there any other types of performance that you hope to write for someday? For example, theatre, musicals, music installations, etc., etc. Luci, I know you have, so we'll start with you first.
Yeah, oh, there's probably lots of things. I've definitely always wanted to work with theatre or live dance, though, because I've been involved with a lot of theatrical projects actually, but never as a composer. So I've done quite a lot of playing in the pit or helping or being involved in productions in some sort of sound way or tech way. And then I have worked a lot with dancers, but usually for creating some sort of media, so some film footage or sometimes installation work. But I would really love to be involved with live theatre, live dance, and compose or be a part of creating the musical and sonic experience for that. I love working with audiovisual installation, as your lovely intro mentioned, Helen. And for me, it's sort of another side to that. And yeah, I love that experience of something unique and live.
Absolutely. How about you, Megan?
I've always thought it would be cool to do music for some kind of art installation. Like, I don't know, I've been to like modern art museums and they have some kind of like, I don't know, like a light show. Not light show is not the right word, but some kind of installation like that. And they have background music. And I'm like, oh, who did that music? Like, that's really pretty. I would love to do something like that. I also have some ideas like kicking around for like interactive live performances, like where the audience does something and it changes what like the string quartet plays or something. Just like vague ideas in my mind right now, but something like that would be really cool, I think.
Well, if that ever happens, please give me a call. I'd love to see it. So
I will, yeah.
Nainita.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm really interested in dance as well, actually. I've never written for dance. I came close to working on on a project with the English National Ballet, but that kind of fell through because for various reasons. But art installations, I think writing music for myself I think is really important. I've never done that. I've always been commissioned to write scores for film, TV, games, and other projects. And I recently wrote, I spent 2.5 years working on an art installation and the music came out, and that's the closest that I've come to finding my own creative voice. So that was a really, really special project for me. And that was a kind of a dream project. But yeah, I mean, there's so much in the world of applied music, isn't there, to explore? I think pushing the boundaries of technology, that's something that really interests me. Working in spatial sound, I got to do a thing for the Apple Provision headset recently, a little short film working in 360 immersive sound. So that was fascinating. So I like working on things getting the opportunity to work on things that I've never done before, where I go, I haven't got a clue how to do this, but we'll find a way. I think that's just anything like that is really exciting, I think.
Absolutely. And what you just mentioned there segues really nicely into another question, my last question to creativity, which is, apart from stereo, are there any spatial audio formats which you'd like to work with? If you haven't had the chance to yet, what would you like to experiment with and why? So whoever would like to go first.
Well, just to finish off what I'm saying, I would love, the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, in terms of 360 sound and working on, like what sort of project would I like to work on? That sort of thing. I would love to work on something like that. That would be incredible. Have you heard about it? It's like you can go in and watch a Coldplay concert, or I think, or U2, I think, and just it's all around you. It's just amazing. So that would be interesting to explore.
Oh my god, yeah, definitely. Because I think it was U2 did a performance there when it first opened or something, and it's quite bright and people can see it from like, I don't know, miles down the road kind of thing.
Yeah. Imagine the mixing would be, or somebody said spear mixing.
Spear mixing. Nice one, Ben. Cool.
Yeah.
Goodness. Just trying to see if anybody else there. Lewis, I'd love to do anything on that sphere. Oh my god. Wow, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Megan or Lucy, whoever would like to,
Oh, I'm a bit of a creative tech nerd as well. Oh, there's some things I'm better than others, but I've dabbled in a few quirky, I guess like electronic, creating sound from electronics and circuits and sensors. That's something that I really enjoy and I've done a little bit of, and would love to dabble more. I think I'd just like to get better at it because it's also a very fiddly world. And I've worked in some binaural installations or projects before that I've really enjoyed as well. And I feel like with that stuff, you feel like you're only just scratching the surface once you start to get to grips with it, you know? So it always feels like you've got much more to learn. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just want to keep on messing about with mad electronics and installations, I guess.
Absolutely, and I know you like pure data as well, which I'm a massive
love a bit pure data.
So.
Love my I'm all over Touch Designer now. So
you moved on since. My goodness, we need to talk about that sometime.
And you love.
No. I love it so much. Megan.
I've done a little bit for 2 games. I did the music in Atmos. It was for Dolby did this game jam that was the Step Up Your Sound game jam, and it was to kind of make games that use their Atmos plugin for Wise for mobile.
Fantastic.
So the way you write music for that is kind of different because it can be spread out a lot more. So I found that I kind of had to have a lot more going on in the music. And then when I like mixed it to stereo to just like put a soundtrack out, I was like, oh, this is so busy. So it's just a little weird. It's like an interesting challenge. It's a different way of writing music. It's probably not what I would want to do most of the time, but once in a while, it's like a cool, different thing to do.
Definitely, because it is a lot of work and it's a different way of thinking and a different way of mixing and sometimes composing as well, because you have to take out certain channels and that kind of thing. So it can change the whole creative flow. So absolutely with you on that one. I just realized I have 10 minutes to get through my other half of the questions, and then we have some lovely ones in the Q&A as well. So we might make that a quick fire round, as in like one person can take each question or something. Okay. So when working with a director or game developer, how do you translate their vision and feedback into musical ideas? And do you prefer to work in linear or non-linear media, and why? So let's try Nainita first.
What's the question? Which one, with the 2 parts to it on the which one?
Yeah, sorry. When working with a director or game developer, how do you translate their vision and feedback into musical ideas? And do you prefer to work in linear or non-linear media, and why?
Okay, so yeah, how do you translate their vision and feedback into musical ideas? This is the crux of what we do as composers, I think, communication, translation of, I mean, I work with linear projects, film and TV. I'm working with non-musical people. And so that poses its challenges. So I communicate in terms of, initially I'll put together a Spotify mood board, musical mood boards, and I'll throw in, some kind of references, conversations. I listen more than I speak, and I get enthused by the way that they describe their projects. So I like to ask developers or directors to talk to me how they would talk to an actor or or member of their team, in terms of develop words like energy and pace and tone, and how dense should a piece be. So when they're giving me feedback, sometimes I get fairly musical people and they're very articulate about, I don't like that sound, and I go, I don't like the sound of the clarinet, can it be something else? And that makes my life a lot easier. But when they can't articulate and they speak in terms of feeling, and it's just, then sometimes it can just be getting to the core of something. It's like, if I give them stems and they go, well, actually, I don't like that element, and that's the only offending element for them, then that can be quite easy for them to fix. But just developing a language and establishing what it is they like and don't like. I think for me, what they don't like is as important as what is working for them when when I'm giving them music. And sometimes I'll do two versions of a track. Sometimes, like at the moment, I'm working on a project where they've laid in temp music that's really big and dense, and then I'm matching it, and they go, no, that's too big and dense. So now I'm doing two versions. One that's like the Coca-Cola and then Coke Zero version of a piece, which is like a stripped down lighter version. And then they invariably will pick two versions, but then it's like double writing.
Yeah.
So that can be, you're doubling your workload. But as the project goes on, I find that once you've established the tone, it becomes so much easier, and they tend to like what you're doing. What was the second half of the question?
Was the second half of my own question? 1 second there. My God, my phone's locked. 1 sec. Is it on? Okay. Do you prefer to work in linear or non-linear media, and why?
I've always thought of myself as a film and TV composer in terms of linear, and I find that linear scoring is so much more messy and chaotic. But having scored for non-linear, working in games, I find I'm working with audio directors and music supervisors, and it's fantastic because everything is so. I like that, the chaos and order. I love the order and structure, and the I get a brief for every single piece of music that I'm writing, and I get references, and I love working within an established framework, because then the creative chaos can go on in my mind, and we can then push ourselves out of that box. So I like the language, the communication. On the one hand, on indie games, I'm working with the developer, and I'm really sort of thrown in to working with the entire team, like I did with Sal, development meetings, narrative meetings, see the design, the artwork, and that's really inspiring. But then on film and TV, I'm very isolated and stuck in my little box. So I like going on that collaborative journey with the entire team. I prefer that. It's more inspiring for me.
100%, absolutely. Thanks, Nainita. Luci.
Oh yeah, I'm very similar, I think, and I especially couldn't agree more with what you said at the very start, Nainita, about how you think that kind of communication and translation phase, and really getting to grips with a project is a key part of what we do, especially screen composers. That's definitely something that I've learned as I've gone on and had different experiences. But yeah, I think I'm very similar. I like to have as many chats as early as possible. You get through the logistics and the format of things and how it might need to go over the whole process. But I think I just really like to get into the mind and feel of the project. And I'm kind of similar about what you're saying about directing. Please direct me like you would an actor. I think I have a similar starting point, because I like to say, can you tell me more about this from how you want, or what you want the player or the viewer to feel? And definitely try and bring things into more of an emotive language, even if they're musical or not especially musical, because exactly the same, I think it helps give us a shared language and takes you out of those possible complications or misunderstandings, which I think we've probably all had experiences of that, where you both think you're saying the same thing and it's something different. What else? Where's the other part? I'm losing myself as well with on linear things.
Yeah, do you prefer linear or non-linear media to work in as well?
Yes, of course. And I was also going to say, I Spotify or mood board playlist is really useful a lot of the time. Not everybody prefers it, but I also really like to get, not everyone likes this, I know this can be a bit of a controversial one, I like to have temp and samples.
Me too.
I do too. Yeah,
I do too.
I think it's another language, right? So it helps you get to grips with what they're saying and how they talk about it, and again, whether it's stuff they don't like or do like. Oh,
game audio
class.
Hello.
It's dinner time.
Great
much.
timing.
It's amazing. But definitely resonate with that, Luci. Temp is fine. Within reason, I guess. But I find when they do provide temp, it's not to do with the actual piece that they like, but it's like a texture that or an instrument that their ear is hooking onto, kind of thing. And I don't know about you all, but I tend to get directors every now and again, especially in film and TV, not so much games, but who'd start off an interaction with, sorry, I can't talk about music in this way, but blah, blah, blah. And I have to go back and say, well, my camera angle theory isn't as strong as yours. So, you know, you have to kind of create a common lexicon from the get-go for sure.
Totally.
Megan?
Yeah, I mean, Luci and Nainita both made great points. I think maybe the one thing I'd add to it is like at the beginning, sometimes I'll make just like a little like 15 to 30 second demo or maybe a couple of them and just be like, okay, like are any of these kind of the mood you're going for? Are any of them the tone you like? And that seems to really help because sometimes if like something is super off and not what they like, then I didn't, you know, score a whole 3-minute scene or whatever doing that. So it can like help a lot early on to do that. And also sometimes when it's like they're really just like not liking something and can't communicate that, I'll like take a step back and be like, okay, well, find some music, like a couple like temp tracks or whatever, not necessarily temp tracks, but something in the same like vein that you want, and tell me a couple things you like about it and also what you don't like about each one. And that kind of helps me like sift through and figure out what it is that they like and what they dislike. And that's helped a lot in the past when me and a director have kind of reached like an impasse where we're not like quite understanding each other. And as for whether I prefer linear or non-linear, I like both. I'm someone who gets bored doing the same thing all the time. That's why I like freelancing so much.
Yes.
So yeah, I like the variety. So yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks all for everybody for your amazing tips and anecdotes for that. That's amazing. Yeah, totally on the same page with you there. So I'm going to whittle it down, maybe 3 more questions and then we'll go on to Q&A. So let me see. Are there any ancillary soft skills that composers should have outside the context of composition and music production? Which do you feel is the most important when it comes to running your own business? So maybe he's like, how much time do you have?
Yeah, outside of, you know, it is interesting in terms of business development. You know, it's taken for granted that you can write great music. And music is very subjective anyway. So, and when first few years of my career, when I was writing music, I used to get so involved in the actual, okay, I've got a job, I'm composing, and I haven't got the time to go out and network and go and get other work. So, and it's juggling the two is really challenging. So I used to get to the end of a project and I go, right, okay, I'm out of work now. What am I going to do? And so I then had to try and generate clients and network and go out and meet people. And that takes time, you know, and then it takes time for a project to come to fruition. So I've learned, I work really hard at, I probably spend 50% of my time composing and 50% of my time doing non-musical tasks. Nothing to do with music, just keeping in touch with people, going out for coffees, going to festivals, and networking and doing all the, you know, there are 3 sides to what I do. I think the music and nurturing and R&D and composing and keeping up to date with the music technology and all of that. And then there's the business development side going, and then there's all the admin tasks that you have to do, you know, cue sheets, emails, and show reels, and you know, all that sort of the non-musical stuff. And I divide my time up between my brain up between those 3 different tasks.
Fantastic.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Definitely. Luci.
Yeah, really good points from Nainita. That I was just thinking, it goes to show that's why you're so amazing and so busy, because you work so hard at it. Yeah, getting out there, meeting people, super important, and it can be really hard to balance it. I think one thing for me, and I don't know how good I am at this, but maybe another area, and it's somewhere between the creative and administrative sides maybe, but it's maybe finding structures or systems, putting systems in place that work for you, which could be around just how, exactly like Nainita's saying, actually, like how you make time for the important extra jobs, or how you're structuring the way you might communicate with clients, or what information needs to come go back and forth when, you know, how you provide, like Megan was saying earlier, how you get feedback and make sure the project's moving along, especially if you're working remotely. So anything like that, I think, can be useful to actually think, if you've got the space, think a little bit about some structure for and some intention behind. But I feel like that all the time as well. I don't think I'm great at it.
Only we had unlimited time, absolutely. Megan?
Yeah, pretty much everything those two said. I guess the only thing I would add is I had to learn to be super organized, like file organization, naming conventions for my file names, all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't at first, and that was real bad because, you know, if a client would like ask for like an earlier draft of something, then I would have to go digging. And so, yeah, just being very, very organized, I think is really important.
Spreadsheets.
Yes.
Google Sheets all the way.
Absolutely.
Gotta get familiar with the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is your best friend, and a well-organized Google Drive or whatever it is. So let me see. Are there any media music related charities or organizations which you hold dear to your heart? If so, which ones would you encourage people to join? So let me see. Megan, how about you?
The Alliance for Women Film Composers is really good. They do a lot of advocacy. That's kind of the main one, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're worldwide as well. So fantastic. Nainita?
Yeah, I mean, there's several. There's obviously the AWFC, Alliance of Women Film Composers, is fantastic, great community. Then there's the Composer Diversity Collective in US based. And there's the Ivors Academy in the UK, which I think is very, very important. If you're a composer based in the UK, you should definitely join up to the Ivors Academy. They are the only music creators members organization in the UK that's there to champion and celebrate with the award ceremonies every year that they organize. The Ivor Novello Awards and the other ones as well, but also all the behind the scenes work that's going on, you know, campaigning and lobbying at government level to help protect all the issues and the long term issues that we are facing as creators with AI coming in and so on. So yeah, I highly recommend the Ivors Academy.
I could totally agree with you there. Absolutely. Luci?
Yeah, great suggestions. I was going to say the AWFC and Ivors is the first ones that came to mind for me as well. And actually the Ivors as well, I think they've just redone their website. They've got all these amazing resources, including, I think there's like a non-payment based subscription.
These new membership tiers, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So great suggestions. They're not really in the media world, and I'm quite biased, but I've got to shout out Tinderbox Collective in Edinburgh, who are just an amazing charity and community of creatives working with young people and communities and beyond. And they've been a huge part of shaping my life and my opportunities. So I definitely want to shout out their incredible team and work.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One more question, then we're going to Q&A. If you were to give one tip to composers who are starting out in this industry, even if it's a book to read or podcast to listen to, what would you recommend to them? So, Megan.
So I'm not going to do a book or podcast, and would say, a lot of people seem to think that the most important thing is making connections with people who are very established in the industry already. And I think that is important, but I think the most important thing is meeting people who are kind of on the same level as you, like your peers, so you can kind of come up together in the industry. Yeah, that would be my number one tip, I think, because I think people who are starting out tend to only try to network with very established people.
Definitely, it's important to like create your own kind of, like, I find I have a nice kind of network of my own peers, and then we kind of like encourage each other to meet other people and stuff. So definitely it's important. Luci?
Well, I will mention a book just because I think it's been so useful, which is Winifred Phillips' A Composer's Guide to Game Music. It's amazing. She's just so good at explaining things.
We love her.
It always just makes total sense. And I think for me, what I've learned, I think it's really important to just nurture your creativity and what makes you curious and adventurous, because that's really, for me, been a driving force behind where I've gone and what opportunities have come my way. So, yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Absolutely, and it's important not to compare yourself to other people's timelines either, because you really don't know what's going on in their lives and they've no idea what's going on in yours. So yeah, just keep trucking on. Absolutely. Nainita.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a wealth of resources out there. When I started, I had none, and it just didn't exist. And then with the internet, there's Score, the podcast, there's the Big Score. There's so many amazing YouTube channels. Spitfire Audio had a great resource of diving into other people's recording studios, and it's inspiring and it's informative and it's educational, and it's great to see how other people are composing and doing their thing within the industry. But I think and there are great books out there as well, as Luci said. So I think it's all of that. But I think forging, when I started, now people are assisting a lot more and coming up through those ranks and shadowing, and there's mentoring and mentees, and I'm mentoring a fair amount on various schemes. But I think but when I started, I just got stuck into writing. I think forming your own tribe, your own family, I think that's really important. Whether there are musicians that are doing sessions and you sort of hang out and become friends, and you've got your own sort of musical collaborators, but then also other sort of people at the same. I think what Megan said, that really connects with me. Working with people at the same, like coming out of film school or new young indie developers, games jams, that sort of thing, where they are the future of tomorrow. They're the industry of tomorrow. And hopefully you're hanging on to their coattails, and they're using you as they move up the industry and up the chain, and they're doing more professional projects, hanging out with those people, and you grow together, I think. And I know so many composers who have, I just heard from my agent was telling me about a composer, really successful LA composer. I think it's Christopher Lennox, I think.
Yes.
And he's working with the same filmmakers that he worked with like 25 years ago. He started off with them, and they're still all working together. So it works, it really does work.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely important to have your own tribe, I suppose. Somebody was saying there in the chat. If I could maybe put a tiny bit of an input there, I'd recommend people to, if they need mentoring, sign up with Help Musicians /Ivers. They have a co-pilot scheme, which they'll assign you a mentor, or you can offer to mentor someone for a period of, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 12 weeks. And then Limit Break, which we all come to know and love, and Mark Jinx, you just said that there. Limit Break are very much a cool initiative to get involved with, because it's every discipline, essentially, not just music. So, and yeah, absolutely, we've been out of sight, out of mind type of industry. So as much speaking to people and going to events as you can, the better, really. So, right, Q&A time. How are you all doing for time, guys? The people in not just, I know Lucy and Greg will give us more time, but three of you here, how much time can you, 10 minutes, okay? Possibly?
Yeah. Do
Okay,
another 10 minutes. Okay,
cool. All right, whoa. Wow, okay. Lewis says, what is music? I don't know. Okay. Paul, what are any of your favorite unusual instruments or recorded textures you've really enjoyed, including in any of your pieces? I'm going to shoot this one out to Megan. So,
I have used a lot of like reversed sounds, like reversed instrument sounds. That's always cool. And then also using instruments that aren't percussion in percussive ways. Like there's something called collegno for strings, where you bounce the bow on a string and it makes like a really percussive sound. So yeah, I guess for me it's usually like actual instruments, but just using them in ways you might not think to usually use them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great answer. Let me see. I'm going to stop that spotlight there. Does it work for me? It does. Jerry asks, what is your favorite inspiration for starting a piece of music besides money? Oh my word. Let me see. Lucy.
Ooh. That's a really good one. I think I'd find it hard to choose. I really enjoyed working on a recent project over the last, I guess it was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, called Fluyo. It's a language learning app with a sort of gamified twist, mobile app. And there was a team of 4 of us, but everything's set underwater, and underwater worlds are just such a great setting for music, especially when it's a playful, fun thing. But I've also, like I was saying, I've been involved in some really interesting, creative, experimental, audiovisual or tech performance kind of installation things. And some of those have had some amazing themes. And there was one that I worked on for a festival a few years ago, and the piece was called Spectral Ballroom. It was a collaboration with a filmmaker and visual artist who had come up with all these archived bits of footage from in and around the area that the installation was going to go into. And she'd kind of come up with this concept of creating a kind of ghostly memory of the space that the installation would be in. So we did all these funky recordings of old music we found, and it sort of created this ghostly jazz band audio soundtrack that kind of whispered around to people. It was just such a great concept and starting point. I find that really, really interesting and very different. I think unusual and different and unique ideas, obviously. Such a great starting point.
Excellent. Nainita, the next one is for you. What is the most difficult part of the composing process for any of you? And is there any personal limitations you had to get over that you felt made you a better composer?
Gosh. Okay, personal limitations you had to get over. I always had imposter syndrome about not being able to work with an orchestra, not having, I don't have a degree in music. Even though I learned musical instruments as a child, I had imposter syndrome about working with the orchestra. And then something clicked in me after many years. I thought, it's just a bunch of sounds, and, just like any other instrument out there, pop music, world music, whatever musical culture, it's a collection of organized sounds, and it's designed to evoke an emotion. And when I got through that mental block, I recently, in the last couple of years, I wrote a big symphonic score, and I just had the most fun because I got over that hurdle and that sort of mental hurdle, and so I don't. I'm not brilliant. I'm not brilliant at reading and writing music. I do everything by ear, and I can write orchestral music. I have this amazing toolkit called, sample libraries, orchestral libraries, and I work in Logic, and I just formulated my own processes and ways of achieving, and I listening to music, research. So I think study. I confront my fears head on. I used to be terrified of public speaking, and I just confronted that fear head on and gave a lecture. I was asked, at my local university about 10 years ago, and I used to break out in a sweat at 2 a.m. in the morning, full of dread. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm panicking. And I thought, you know what, just do it. And I felt so much better. So I think for me, that's like there's, it's with everything connected to what we do, in our industry, going out there, networking, business, composing, nothing is impossible. Anything is possible. Nothing is impossible, I think. And once you've sort of got that sort of mental block out the way, you can just do it,
Amazing.
I know it's not terribly constructive, but
no, it's like, I think that's what one big takeaway from today is the only way to get through something is to just go through it. No matter how kind of it can be terrifying, but the payoff is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nikhil and Daniel, I might come back to you if that's okay. Bijan asks, how often are you composing alongside the sound designer or post-production team? Do you ever send cues or scenes back and forth? Luci?
It varies project to project, but I do prefer it when there's people in those roles on projects, especially as I'm very interested and fascinated with the interactive and responsive side of interactive music. So we're talking about audio middleware in games. It's a really big part of the process. But I do tend to be more on the compositional content side and do less of the integration work directly. So when I'm working with an engineer or supervisor or an audio tech or whoever it is, I much prefer that because you're working with somebody who understands the process and the approach and the format and the language you're using, but they tend to do that part of it a lot better than me. So, but not all projects go that way. So sometimes I have to get stuck in on that side as well.
Excellent. Megan, next one's for you. How do you reconcile being creative or coming up with new musical ideas versus working in deadlines or under time pressure?
So the time pressure actually helps me. I have ADHD and we're very like rewards driven, right? But also like the reward can be not being late on finishing a project. So once in a while I've worked on something where they're like, oh, there's no real deadline, like just whenever. I'm like, no, but give me a deadline because I need the time pressure. So yeah, I actually might not be the best person to answer this because the deadlines are the thing that help me a lot.
That's very valid. Yeah, definitely. It's I find that what's that phrase? A deadline helps because otherwise you can like overmix or overcompose or whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Right, Joshua, could you possibly see? There's a few people unfortunately going to have to skip over because of time. But what you can do is I'll put a post on Airwiggles at some point and try and see if I can get anybody's answers into that post. Amy, for those of us in game development and film dead zones, what is the best way to find work online or otherwise? I'm going to throw this one out to all three of you. So, okay. So I know we were meant to, there was a question there about finding work and that kind of thing. I just didn't get time to it, but thankfully somebody asked it. So what's the best way to find work online or otherwise? What would you recommend to people nowadays? So
it's a very good question, and probably, well, I find one of the hardest to answer. Yeah. But I think what Nainita was talking about earlier as well, staying in touch, and I think you said, Helen, out of sight, out of mind is a tricky thing to balance within this industry. So there's that. But I think something that's really helped me over the years, and I am more of a jack of all trades type, I suppose, but is diversifying your portfolio and looking out for those opportunities and maybe other industries or areas that you hadn't thought of. You very likely have a lot of skills that are really relevant for a lot of work. So I've branched off into community and youth work, like I said, and local work, and being involved with local active organisations, which inevitably introduces you to lots more really interesting, amazing, creative, talented people in the local and wider areas as well. And also done a little bit of broadcasting, and there's some things I've sought out or been interested in and looked into, and there's others that have just landed on my lap, and I thought, like you said, just do it, give it a go and see where it goes. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful in some way.
I unfortunately have gotten a lot of work through social media, and I don't like social media, but I think posting regularly and posting my music regularly kind of puts me to the front of mind for people who are maybe looking for a composer or hear of someone looking for a composer. So it's a balance, you know, because like, I don't know, looking at the feed can be like not great for people's mental health and whatnot, but making sure I'm posting regularly, has been good for getting work for me. So yeah,
absolutely. And Lewis Thompson here did an amazing talk a couple of times on the importance of social media for your work. So if he ever does it online, please watch it. And it's definitely well worth the watch. It's very funny. So Nainita, how about you?
I agree about social media. I mean, I don't personally like it that much, but I think it's kind of a necessary evil, just being able to control it, you know. But yeah, I mean, I put my stuff out there, and I think, but doing it with integrity and authenticity, I think it's really, you know, just like bragging or showing off, you know, you just want to share stuff, I think. And that's been really useful for me, I think. And a little tip that I heard another composer did, and I thought, this is so clever. He just reads a book, watches a TV show, plays a game, and if he finds a way of connecting with it and he really enjoys someone's work, he'll then find their contact details on social media or their email address and reaches out to them and say, I watched your show, I played your game, and I loved it because of X, Y, and Z. And not doing it in a way to say like, can you give me a job? but just connecting with other humans and flattering people and knowing why you love their work and what it meant to you. And slowly you build up your own little network of people, and just keeping in touch. Every 5 weeks, somebody else says to me, every 5 weeks, keep people in touch. If you meet someone, keep them in touch with what you're doing. And, you know, if you like created your own album or your work, or you've got something to shout out about, every 5 or 6 weeks, just drop them a little line, keep in front of their minds, keep yourself at the forefront of their minds, so that when an opportunity does come along, and it can take 1, 2, 3 years, more than that. It's happened to me a few times where I met a filmmaker at a film festival, and his film just blew me away and I loved it. We kept in touch, and 3 years later he called me up and said, do you know what, Nainita, I think I've got a project that we could work together on. And that was an amazing thing for me. So you have to play the long game. You're not going to get work just like that. I mean, but it's a long-term investment in yourself and other people as well.
Absolutely. Oh, excellent. Yeah, long-term investment is definitely important. So does anybody here have an artist name apart from their composer name? No? Or no? Okay. So I'm not sure if we're able to answer this one. It's how important is it to release music under your artist name when it comes to gigs? Is that relevant at all? Actually, can I throw that out to the chat? That might be an interesting one. So it is, how important is it to release music under your artist name when it comes to gigs? Is that relevant at all? I'd love to see the chat chime in on that one. So, right, Maxim asks, how does mixing and mastering process look when working with big budget / AAA studios? So, let me see. Whoever would like to answer this one?
Well, I mean, I'm working on a couple of AAA games at the moment, and it's brilliant because I don't have to worry about the costs. So I'm just writing the music, and then I'm recording music at various milestones. And, we have a batch of music, right? Writing 30, 40 minutes of music. Okay, we've got enough material to record with. And then I'll put together. I mean, what does this? It's a big question. How does what the process look like? I mean, yeah. So when I'm ready to record something, a milestone, I will then go out and record with the orchestra or bring in soloists, and then I have a score mixer who's mixing the score. But what I do is when I've finished a piece of music, I've got 10 or 11 tracks that are ready for a milestone. I will do everything using samples and electronics, and then obviously I'll replace it with real instruments, but I will then stem out all the music, sometimes 40, 50, 60 layers, and give them to the development team. But I will make sure, and this is where really copious detail in spreadsheets come in, where I will make sure that when I replace, when I've recorded the music and mixed it with my score mixer has an exact layout, knows exactly what I have to deliver to the game development team. That is exactly the same as the demo stems that I gave them. So I've delivered 50 stems, and then I go out and re-record, for the team to implement. And then I go out and record and mix, and then we just literally switch out the final mixes of those 50 stems that we then resupply to the development team. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Delivering it twice. But it means that if I deliver early, just the temp stems, it means that the implementation guys can work, because it takes a long time for them to implement a piece of music. So it just means that they can get on with it, knowing that I'm just going to switch it out with the real final mixes when they're done at the end of the day.
100%. Definitely have experience on that side of the pot. Yeah. Fantastic, Nainita. Thanks so much. Okay, and with a couple more, and then we'll do our thank yous and all that kind of jazz. So how do I unspotlight? Can I just okay. Luci, I'm going to give you a two-parter if you're up for that.
Oh,
yes,
I
know.
I can remember this time.
You're fine. So actually, I'll throw this out to anybody who wants to answer it. So Luci, you're up first. So what would you consider as your fingerprint in the music you compose?
very good question. Tricky one for me again as well. I don't know if this is an exact answer, but I'm always really drawn to anything that lets me fuse acoustic, live, real instruments with the unusual, surreal, unexpected sound fusion, you know. And so it's not always appropriate for every project or what I'm doing, but certainly if I'm writing something just for me or there's the right opportunity, I think that's something that hopefully you'd think of with my sound and approach.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's a great way to answer. And for anybody who wants to answer this one, let's have a look. Where's it gone? It's a controversial one. This always comes up in the composer Q&A, right? What's your least favorite instrument to work with? Oh boy.
The hurdy-gurdy.
Hurdy-gurdy. Wow.
It's hell to record. It's very difficult. It's just noise.
Now that you mention it, because miking up an instrument is one thing, but miking up a hurdy-gurdy, oh yeah, is that like a contact mic situation, or is a like that's interesting?
It's so difficult to control the sound that it produces.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a challenge, yeah. But I mean, so it is a great sound, but it just dominates everything that you do.
100%. Megan?
I don't know if I really have a least favorite. I guess what comes to mind is writing for vocals, just because I'm not a singer and I don't really know how to do it. And I am really bad at writing lyrics. And for some reason, people like ask me to do them sometimes. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. You got to find someone else.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's more just that I don't really know a lot about, writing for voice. It's not that I don't know. I don't want to learn. It's just kind of my weak spot at the moment. Yeah.
It's okay. It's like orchestration. I think it's kind of like a whole other kind of muscle, really. And you can only find the time when you can find the time for these things.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, Lucy, how about you?
The two that come to mind are actually nothing to do with the sound of the instrument or it's what it is, because I love them both dearly and they've got essential parts and ensembles. But I think it's probably the harp and drum kit. It's more to do with the notation and communicating what you want with the player while remembering all the physicalities and logistics that it comes down to with how they notate drum kit parts and how different players learn and interpret shapes and the pedal key for the harp and things, so it's more that I get a sort of headache from it. But if you get it right and you've learned something during it, then the results are very satisfying.
Definitely like trying to have the right pedal figure on a piece of the sheet music for an orchestra. Just keeps me up at night sometimes. Make sure I have the right one. Absolutely. Okay, so we've two more and then I'll let you go. So Nikhil asks, oh my god, how do I actually unspotlight this? What's your least favorite instrument? Well, I can't unspotlight this. Oh my goodness. If someone is able to, I have it. Okay. Nikhil asks, I wasn't going to bring in brands into this, but we'll try one. Have you guys used Museo? So I personally use it a lot since it's affordable and super user friendly. So that used to be Cinesamples, I think. Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to, by the way, Nikhil. I need time to scratch at the moment, but when I do, I'll report back to you.
I'm not aware of it. Is that really bad? Should I not be confessing that?
And then it became a subscription model, essentially. Like I think it's cloud-based or something like that. So it's yeah. So fair enough. Sorry, Nikhil, if we couldn't answer you properly, but I'll remember you when I eventually tried out. Our last question for today is for everybody. From Daniel Gorbachev. Which composer inspires you the most? So
so many. Everyone here.
Yay!
Everyone in the chat. I've got a huge collection of influences and it's just so much amazing music out there, and it probably changes anytime I get this question, but big ones: Thomas Newman, Koji Kondo, Nobuo Uematsu,
absolutely,
Laura Cartman. Oh
yes,
big fan.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm finding just as time goes on, I'm listening a lot less to media composers and going back into my roots with other composers and kind of, I suppose, trying to call back some of the people that inspired me as a child and that kind of thing. So it's absolutely. Megan, how about you?
Thomas Newman is usually like the media composer, I say, but Eric Satie in general.
Yes.
Just the way, I don't know, he does chord voicings and just has like a lot of space in his music, which I appreciate. Also, he was a really weird dude, which I think is fun. Just like reading about him is very fun. So yeah, I guess Satie's my answer. Yeah.
Absolutely, and like Eric Satie, absolutely. Like I'm kind of going back into a lot of like songwriters and such that I grew up listening to, because when parents pass their musical tastes on to their kids and that kind of stuff. So it's then it kind of makes you realize, oh, I've kind of absorbed that internally all through the years. So Nainita, how about you?
Oh gosh, so many. It depends project by project. I tend to listen to material and get inspired by directors' tastes and Spotify
Yes.
mood boards as well. So I mean, obviously, I love Thomas Newman. We were all mentioning him. Well, I think my favorite score of his is Revolutionary Road.
Oh
Actually,
yes.
Oh, that's a great one.
Oh,
beautiful,
absolutely.
more than American Beauty, I think.
Mm.
But then I mean, there's so many other composers. I'm saying sort of non. I love world music. Obviously, Peter Gabriel was a big hero of mine when I was
Yes.
growing up, and I got to work with him. And so, producers, and engineers, like Daniel Lanois, Brian Eno, I think are just geniuses in. And I love, for example, Daniel Lanois. He produced. Albums by U2 and the Neville brothers and Emmylou Harris and Bob Dylan. And so just listening to the work that he produced introduced me to a world of music out there. So just the sonic sound of albums and engineering. Grace Jones, I love her collaborators, and her production and engineering is just incredible to listen to.
100%.
So
Oh wow.
so many out there.
I completely agree. Yeah, Thomas Newman appreciation stream now, by the way. Yeah, I really loved his work on Bond. It really it was very inspiring. Absolutely. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm really getting back into listening to. I really love Jamiroquai. Their music is insane. They play in Paris quite a lot for some reason, so I'd love to see them do a gig in the UK. So totally agree with everybody here. All fantastic musical tastes. Oh, everybody's chiming in here. Bernard Herrmann, Bruce Broughton, Gustav Holst, Danny Elfman, John Williams, Satie Ravel, Laura Cartman's amazing, yes she is, Michael Cucino, Darren Korb, Bear McCreary, who Sam is paging Bear McCreary because of the whole hurdy-gurdy saga. Okay, totally. So okay, so Alexander Desplat, absolutely. Okay, so thank you all for staying with me well past the time. Just to finish up, I'd like to thank our wonderful guests today, Megan Carnes, Nainita Desai, Luci Holland, and just some very personal perspective. I should on spotlight this actually. My goodness. Thank you all for being here, and it's very inspiring, and it was such an honor to host a panel with the most amazing, creative, strong composers that I know, or some of them anyway. And it's been wonderful. Thank you so much to Lewis and Greg for and AirCon staff for providing this wonderful platform and for keeping it running, like clockwork. Amazing. And please give them all a clap in the chat. Thank you very much. And to our wonderful sponsors for making this all happen. So thanks everybody, and have a great evening. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Helen, too.
Bye-bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.